Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Have you ever been in that situation where you are implementing Scrum, Agile, all these different techniques, and you're still not getting the gains that you're trying to get? A lot of times it's because you're not improving your engineering practices. Today, we're going to cover a big topic, DevOps, simple DevOps primer. Going to be so good that you may have to slap your mom on it. All right, y'all. Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Today, you understand what we're talking about, but you know how we do this. Do me a favor, drop a hi in the chat if you're here. Say hello like we normally do. I'll give you a shout out. Talk to me about what's been going on. Here's the deal. In all seriousness, it's been a good past week for me. I'm just enjoying things. I'm doing things. I'm catching up on things I haven't been able to catch up on. So I'm really excited, really going into this week because it's training in the morning and then in the afternoon, just taking care of stuff with clients. And so it's just been a good week. It's been a really good week. And then I got other things that I'm working on. So I'm just like super excited. But the idea is, what's going on with you? How are you doing? Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. If this is the first time that you've joined the show, people kind of straggle in, they try to come in, right? We answer your questions about Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship. Whatever those questions that you may have are, we attempt to answer them, right? So come on in, have a seat, get a nice little drink for yourself, right? And come on in and enjoy a little bit of time with us because we're gonna make sure we're gonna have a good time this evening. I'm actually looking forward to it. Um, what we normally do in terms of the agenda, so you have an idea what's going on. What we normally do is we will, start the topic about, 5 minutes or so after. And by starting the topic 5 minutes or so after, we go for about 10 to 15 minutes on the topic. We could go longer on the topic depending on, the kind of questions, the type of interaction. But we will play it by ear as we move forward. But there is, a whole lot to talk about in terms of DevOps. But we'll take it up to at latest 8:25, and then we'll go ahead and we'll open up the actual interview, the green room. So then you can join us. Now, the way this works is really simple. If you have a question, you're welcome to drop that in the chat. If you have a really deep question that you need some exchange on, then I would advise you to join me on the show, right? I'm going to send out the link to all our places, all the places we're linked up with, to make sure that you have access to the actual, green room so you can join us on the show. That is if you want to join us on the show, and you don't have to. You're welcome to drop any questions that you have in the chat. So make sure you say hi so that I can say hi to you back. But welcome, everybody. It's just another one of those nice Mondays. I've been looking forward to the week. And I'm looking forward to the weekend. That's crazy. When you're looking forward to the week and then you have to look forward to the weekend too, you gotta love it. I always love it, right? Because I'm always finding stuff to do. I'm always finding something to get into. So, it's just part of just kind of the way it works, right? So my LinkedIn folks are here. My YouTube folks are here. We had problems, I don't know, over the past month or so with LinkedIn not connecting. So I did some tests this week to see how it worked out, and it looked like it worked out pretty well because I got both places here, right? So I'm very happy about that. I'm over here looking to make sure that my LinkedIn is actually running like it's supposed to. So really, really good. So that being said, let's have a little conversation here. Um, Evelyn, how you doing? The forum is going to be here. I may have to get you to take over one day, Evelyn. So make sure you be ready for that. Matter of fact, you never know. I may need to take a vacation or something. So you all need to come on in and position yourself so you come join me. Not just join me on a show, but run a show. A lot of y'all got a wonderful and great experience. And I'd like to see some of you all share that with the community, you know, with this community here and with the Agile community in general, right? It'd be a beautiful thing. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get ourselves to talking today, and let's start talking about our topic, right? It's not a crazy topic. It's not anything that I would say most of you all probably, if you have any exposure to Agile, Scrum, you are fairly familiar with this topic, and that topic is DevOps, or what I'm going to call, software development plus IT operations. The dev, software development, the operations, IT ops, right? It's almost like you can say it's the perfect blend between the two, is what DevOps is all about. And what DevOps really emphasizes, probably more than anything else, is automation, collaboration, communication, obviously between developers, operations, stakeholders, and understand. I'm using I'm using developers in a very generic term. I'm not thinking about as the developer as only writing code, but I'm thinking about a developer that's going beyond just writing code. Testing is a major part of DevOps. So you it's one of those things you want to think about and consider it, because the idea is that even if we involve, well, stakeholders, you want to involve them too to some degree. But what we're really doing is trying to create the highest possible quality software as quickly and as efficiently as possible. That's pretty much what we're doing with DevOps. So you can always think about it in short as the perfect blend between software development and IT ops. You can think about it as being all about automation, collaboration, communication. You can think about our main purpose as being producing high quality software that is quickly done and efficiently done, right? These are very, very important things. So then, if I take it back and I peel it back for just a second, you say to yourself, what is DevOps in particular? Um, some people may consider it a methodology, may consider it yeah, I would never do that. I was considered to be a framework, but a lot of people like to think of it as a methodology associated with software. But I always think of these things as like a framework, because you can switch specifics in and out based on your situation, based on how things are going for you. And when you just peel it back, you can think about DevOps as being the integration of software development, IT operations, and I'm going to add one more thing to that. I'm going to add one more thing to that, right? And that thing I'm going to add is quality assurance. Quality assurance, right? That whole testing part, that whole making sure that we have the quality that we're expecting, because we are creating a culture where there's going to be a lot of collaboration happening between developers. Understand, when I say developers, I'm including testing and quality in that, right? When you start thinking about operations as well as, stakeholders, people that have some interest in whatever's happening here, right? So realistically, when you peel it back, DevOps is really major collaboration. It really is major collaboration and communication. Is that more than anything else? You're going to find transparency, inspection, adaptation all over DevOps, right? It's just DevOps you shouldn't feel like it's a daunting thing. You shouldn't feel like it's such a big thing that you can't get yourself involved and engaged in some kind of way, because DevOps does touch on several things, right? It really does touch on several things, but you got to just make sure that you understand that at its core, you're really trying to have high quality development, right? Operations and quality assurance. All three of those are extremely important. So then when you peel it back a little bit, you say to yourself, all right, what kind of tools do we actually utilize in terms of DevOps? But before I ask that question, before I really answer that question, here's a question for you. For the people that are here, right? Whether you're on LinkedIn or you're on YouTube, are you actually utilizing DevOps within the organization that you're working with? Have you had any exposure to DevOps at this point? You know, when I see, look, I understand Scrum, right? Yeah, I get it. No, no, no. I'm not talking about Scrum here. I'm not talking about Kanban. I'm really talking about DevOps, right? Purely DevOps, right? Now, if you may have had some exposure to Extreme Program, which a lot of its foundations lead into DevOps, right? But when I think about DevOps, I think about a cultural change. I think about a culture that is embracing collaboration. Does that make sense? So if you have exposure or experience with DevOps, just do me a favor, just throw in there how many years of exposure experience you have with DevOps. The problem that I run into is a lot of Scrum Master process folks types, they don't really work that closely with the developers where they have a clear enough understanding of what's happened within development and operations for them to help them improve. So let me know. Throw it in the chat. How much experience? If it's zero, that's okay. There's no shame here. But let me know how much experience you have with it. I'm a past software developer, right? So I still got that software development thought process, right, in my head, right? And it's just a part of my muscle memory. Some things I can't help but think about. So just want to make sure you understand that. Now, some tools, you may be familiar with, but I'm going to ask you all another question. I see people have experience, right? Evelyn says it's 3 years. Lashante says minimum exposure, and minimum exposure is fine, right? It can happen by a separate group or whatever it is, but understanding it is a plus, right? Look at Patrick, the master here, with 1,000 years of DevOps experience. Patrick was doing DevOps before computers existed, right? So this is a good thing. I love him. You know what I'm saying? So, and Evelyn says about 3 years. So we got mixed amount of experience in here, right? So then I'll ask another question since some of you all do have experience with this, right? Um, what what type of tools do you see utilized within DevOps? Okay. What type of tools do you actually see? We talked about what DevOps is, right? But what type of tools do you actually see within DevOps? Because it's one thing to talk about; it's another thing to start actioning these things, right? And if you have an idea of some of these tools, just throw them in the chat for me. Just throw them in the chat for me, right? Because I'm familiar with a few. I wouldn't say I'm familiar with all of them. And let's say that most application lifecycle tools probably have some version of this. If you go into Azure or you go into IBM suite of tools, you're probably going to see that, right? Um, and so, as I see here, I see things come up like Jenkins, GitHub, software versioning, team collaboration tools. Absolutely. These are some of the things that I would expect to hear about, right? But if I was to categorize tools, I would say that you're going to have a CI CD tools. Oh, let me stop. Continuous integration, continuous delivery. CI, continuous integration, CD, continuous delivery, right? So when I start thinking about Jenkins, that would be a perfect example of a CI/CD tool, right? There are other ones that exist, Circle CI, Travis CI. So you have the idea of that, right? You also need a configuration management tool, right? Things like Puppet would be a good example of that, right? And if you have no clue what I'm talking about, you need to just start looking it up, right? Infrastructure as code, IAC tools, Terraform, OpenStack would be other ideas. And then another thing would be like containerization tools, right? So Docker or, you know, this other one forgets me. Starts with a K, but I can't remember it. Cuber something, whatever, right? But the idea is that you really have, four common tools, and I won't say tools, four categories of tools: CI/CD tools, configuration management tools. You're also going to be thinking about the infrastructure as code tools and the containerization tools. All these are just tools that's right, right. That's it right there. Let me throw it up. Petra, thank you. Thank you. That's exactly it. So just one of those things where you want to just kind of pull back. They're great examples, right? They're great examples of all these things, right? But whatever those tools are, you should be getting some familiarization with them if you don't have any tools whatsoever. You should get some exposure to them for yourself, right? And if you do, it's trust me, it's going to be really helpful for you. It's going to be extremely helpful for you, right? So I absolutely love that. I love even thinking about it because the tools will help you to action it, right? And there are always new tools popping up, right? So it is one of those things that if you're not an expert at it, it's okay. It's okay. It happens. It happens. It is what it is, right? So tools is one thing. So what are those tools? We took care of that, right? So what about processes associated with DevOps, right? Because there's obviously things that you're trying to do, right? And you got to get a clear understanding of some of those things that you're trying to do. And I can break those down into a few categories as well, which are important too. Um, and these are really there to improve collaboration when it comes to development and operations teams. That's what I'm talking about. Those processes that exist between them is really what I'm kind of touching on right now. So this would be, just a few things to touch on, right? But again, I'm giving broad categories here, right? Obviously, you're gonna need some continuous integration. If you don't know what that is, that's integrating code. Obviously, that's kind of what it means. You go back and you think continuous deployment, right? Being able to integrate that code into production automatically, right? Continuous testing, ways to ensure high quality, hopefully as automated as you can. And then another thing is going to be continuous monitoring, right? Making sure that things isn't going crazy in your production environment, right? And so you peel it back, you got to deal with that as well. And so these are just processes that are really associated with your actual DevOps, and your tools are going to support those processes of what you're trying to do in terms of the integration of software, operations, and quality, right? So this is all really, really important for us to shake up and shake out. So really, really super important. For some reason, I don't understand why. I'm not seeing my LinkedIn post, and a lot of you all aren't seeing them. I'm not able to show them for some strange reason because they're just not popping up. But here's the deal. I see Rajesh has given many, many things, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, kind of grab a couple of these things that Rajesh says over, um, over on LinkedIn, right? Just grab a couple of them and I don't throw them in, but this is from Rajesh, not from me. Some of the things that you all might want to be more familiar with, right? SCM tools, right? So thank you, Rajesh, for that. Rajesh, right? Kumar, right? We talked about some continuous integration stuff here. So I'm just throwing them over here because I want to make sure that everybody can see them and I can display them more than anything else. This is another idea from Rajesh. We're thinking very similar, Rajesh. We really are. CM tools, yeah. Excellent, in terms of this. Yep, right there. That's another set. So let me display that there. Configuration management tools, or CM tools, are excellent. Let's see, just to add more stuff into this. Rajesh, you didn't came up with everything, man. I should have just brought you on the show, my friend. Seriously. Uh, take that a little bit deeper. You got containerization tools, which I mentioned, Docker. Let's see, we got monitoring tools, right? So there's lots of stuff, right? So I'm just dropping these things because, again, these are things that have been added to the comments over in LinkedIn, and I do want to display them. And again, they're from Rajiv Kumar, right? Let's see, monitoring and logging tools, collaboration tools. Yeah, just lots of tools, man. I mean, this space has grown so much since I began in it, and it's just unbelievable. It's just really unbelievable. And so let's see, let's click see more on that. And there we go. And we're going to add this too. Okay, so thank you, Rajesh. I really appreciate that. And you're third connected to me or something like that, man. You need to be a first connected to me, man. Make sure that you connect with me. Okay, seriously. So let me click like on all these comments from him. Okay, but excellent. I totally agree with all these things that Rajesh has said. So once again, lots of great stuff here. But again, DevOps is big, 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 right? And if you're not doing it, this is going to be a problem for you, right? Because you can't really speed up a lot of things without improving your technical agility. If you don't improve your technical agility, then you just mess up everything. Just that's just the fact, right? So just so that you think it's not good enough to think I'm gonna walk in the building and all we're gonna do is Scrum. I'm gonna walk in the building and all we're gonna do is Kanban, right? By the way, if you like what we're talking about here, I want you to go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the channel, like like it, because again, this is going to help with the algorithm. And for you all that's on LinkedIn, come join me on YouTube, man. Come join me on YouTube and subscribe and like. Make sure you do that, and make sure I'll leave a link to make sure y'all come on over. So make sure you come over to YouTube, because that's where I operate the show at, for real, for real. So come on, join us over there too, right? So let me make sure I get this for them, so we can all be good to go, and at some point be in the same place, at one time. So let me drop this over there for my LinkedIn folks. So again, you like this, like and subscribe. But come on over here, my LinkedIn folks. Come on over and subscribe. But yeah, this is a lot of good information. It's a lot of good information just kind of piled on you, right? I said this is going to be a good one, and I think it's really, really good. The only last thing that I would add to this is one final thing that I think is really important, but again, people don't think about it, and that's the culture change that goes along with DevOps. It's going to be a culture change, right? I mean, all the time we say it's going to be a culture change, and probably one of the biggest culture changes. Well, I'll ask you all this before I know what my biggest one is, right? What's the biggest culture change do you think that we have to deal with in terms of this whole process of kind of incorporating DevOps? I'm not going to say we're moving to it, incorporating DevOps into what we're doing, right? To have the highest quality that we can have. What do you think are some of the cultural changes that actually happen? Okay, drop that in the chat for me, right? And I'm gonna say, yeah, we covered a lot here. That's the reason why I say it's a primer. This is going to be a good video, right? Rajesh helped out, definitely covered a lot of things, added a lot more than I was even thinking, right? Um, Sometimes just familiarizing yourself with them is okay. Most shops use 2 to 5 of these tools. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have learned you'll learn them for real. So most shops do have these tools in house. So just know that as well. And Petrus jumps out there first and said mindset change. I agree with you. There's definitely a mindset change that goes along with this, right? The mindset change is extremely important because a lot of folks got to change how they're thinking, change how they're developing, change how they're working, right? Probably the biggest one, in my mind, um, I get Rajesh saying collaboration. I'm going to add that here. I think that's a major one, right? Collaboration is huge, right? I'm adding this. This is from Rajesh. I'll share it, but it's from Rajesh over on LinkedIn. Again, I don't know why it's not showing on my in my software here. But on LinkedIn, seriously, collaboration is a major one, right? So I definitely think collaboration. I definitely think automation. Rajesh with another good one, automation. Um, and definitely, let me add that one from Rajesh. Automation. That's definitely another big one. And then eliminating silos, definitely. But here's the one that I don't see that you all are saying that I think is important is shared responsibility. There's a huge, huge thing with shared responsibility. Like it's huge shared responsibility. I would think would be the number one thing that I would think about in terms of DevOps, right? And also continuous improvement, right? I saw collaboration, I saw automation. All those things are good. Rajesh just said shared responsibility. So shared responsibility is a major one. And Rajesh added another one, customer focus. I absolutely love it. These are just things that, again, shared responsibility. Also, Rajesh jumped out there with, customer focus, right? So I think all these things are extremely important when it comes to DevOps, right? When it comes to DevOps. So if you're around and you're not thinking about these things in terms of DevOps, I'm going to ask everybody, right? What's some good books to read, right? I always go back to the basics of making sure you understand extreme programming. That's for sure. Kent Beck's books, yeah, it's tons of them, right? Several books, right? And then if you look at people like Bob Martin. Um, you go ahead and make sure you think about um, other things that's associated in the space. You can learn a lot. Continuous deployment, the continuous delivery by J.S. Humble is probably one of the major seminal books that's been out there for a while. And there are just many books. So realistically, I'm going to say to you, if you're not familiar with the things that we talked about, make sure you become familiar with it. Um, shared responsibility. Bridget kind of said on LinkedIn, shared responsibility is interesting, right? This is exactly what she said. And it is interesting, but it really is. When you talk about DevOps, it really is a huge shared responsibility. There has to be a high level of trust in these kind of environments, because if you don't have that, it's really hard to spread that responsibility across to several members of the team. So it's a big commitment, is what it is what is just the truth. It's interesting, but it's just the truth, right? And that's how it works in many organizations that do this well, do this very well. Okay. So really important, right? Um, One book that's been recommended, I'm going to throw this out here by uh, Rajesh, is a couple books. Let's see. I'm just going to grab a couple of them that he threw out there. I'm always gonna. I know Jez Humble. I love his book, Continuous Delivery. But this book right here, Site Reliability and Engineering: How Google Runs Production Systems. That's an amazing book. I've read this book. This right here is a really good book, right? Let's see. Let's add a little bit more here. Let's see. Effective building, effective DevOps, right? Another one. Um, Again, people are throwing out great, books out here. Rajesh has given me three of them, so this is good. So I like it. I love it. Um, you don't see these things too often, but if you are interested, go learn about it. The DevOps Handbook, that's another great book, right? You see Jazz Humble out there, right? So that the DevOps book here is a really good book too. A lot of great examples in that book is what I would say to you, right? So that being said, that's what this whole thing is about in terms of DevOps, right? Um, you know, I just wanted to give you a primer. That's it. And have had a help from a lot of people here. Thanks, Rajesh. Thanks, actual Patrick. Thanks, Petra. Thanks, everybody, right? For at least throwing some things out there. We can have more of these. This is like my Slap Your Mama series, right? Where we get into some stuff for real and dive a little bit deeper. And I wanted to really do this because it just came up as a question. So I think once a month we'll do something deep than the Slap Your Mama series. I just love the name. And again, let me say this: nobody's slapping anybody's mama. Okay, nobody's doing that. It's just a phrase down south where something is seasoned so well or it's just so good. You are so excited about it that you wind up slapping your mama. Right? That's all it's really about. So don't think don't think nothing crazy from me saying it. But I love it, the Slap Your Mama series. I think we will just continue to do this every single month, go deep on a topic. Just you know, this is a topic that continues to evolve. What I love about the DevOps topic is I guarantee you, a year from now, things are gonna be different. Yeah, things are gonna be different. There'll be some new tools out there, some new things that people have discovered, right? It's just an exciting space to be in. So definitely, I would, if I'm you, I would jump into that space and learn, right? Especially if you haven't been exposed to this, go read some of these books. You'll get amazing exposure. You get amazing exposure, and that will give you an idea of what your devs are going through to implement this. It's not as easy as some of us claim it to be. But once you do get there, major points, right? Your agility will increase. So that being said, we're gonna close that topic up for the evening. That was our DevOps primer, Slap Your Mama series, right? And what I want to do now is I want to open up the actual floor. I want to open up the actual interview, the green room, right? So if you have any questions in terms of any of this stuff, I would love for you to go ahead and either join me on the show, and I'm dropping a link so you can join me. Okay. Or you are welcome to drop your question in the chat. If you drop your question in the chat, just know that anybody that calls in will get priority. Okay. And when I say call in, I really mean that. You're going to join me on the show, be side to side, and we're going to have a conversation. So, what kind of questions do you have? Drop them in the chat. I've had people say they're going to show up because they got situations that they're dealing with. If you got situations that you're dealing with and you want to talk about them, just don't just just don't convict the innocent. That's all I would say. Don't convict the innocent, right? Don't use everybody's real name. Don't try to throw anybody under the bus, right? I'm not trying to get sued. You're not trying to get sued, right? So let's just not do that, okay? So, what kind of questions do you have? Go ahead and drop them in the chat. Other than that, I like that topic, y'all. Did y'all like that topic? Give me a thumbs up. Click the like button. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a smiley face in the chat if you like that topic. That was a good topic. I thought about that topic last week and was like, I don't want to do it last week. I want to do the thing that I promised I would do. And that was, talk about good things that was happening. So, what questions do you all have, right? What questions do you all have in terms of this Agile Scrum thing? Or maybe you don't have any questions. Maybe this has been just such a good thing that we are all sitting here pretty and you guys are amazing. You may be amazing and don't have any questions, right? I don't know. We'll see, right? We'll see. I'm not sure, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, that's kind of topic helps me to it helps me to feel really good, man. It really does, right? It really, really does. So, as stated, people to catch up. So, what questions do you have that I can answer for you? Any questions are okay. I'm, you know, I'm excited as usual, as you know. I just be just finding ways to enjoy myself. As you can know, I'm in the studio. It's nice to be in the studio. Um, because I got all my access to my toys. I like having access to my toys. I actually worked out before I got on the show, worked out and ate, so I'm a little bit sweaty, a little bit tired. Well, I'm not really tired, but a little bit sweaty from the workout. But it was a good workout. I'm telling you, it was a good workout. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a 6 pack at 50. I'm just, I doubt it, but you can dream, right? Can you dream? I can dream. Mm-mm-mm. So I'm drinking some BCAAs, some post workout formulas. So and it's actually pretty good. It's a good drink, right? And I'm feeling good about having it because it's not gonna drag away from my gains. It's gonna help me to recover, right? So I'm enjoying that, right? I'm enjoying that a whole lot. So yeah. So let's see. AI puts automation on steroids. How do you see it affecting Scrum Masters and PMs? You know what the truth is, Patrick? I actually believe that Scrum Masters and project managers that do not adapt to this new way of doing things from an AI perspective, I believe that a lot of them will be without jobs. I'm just saying, right? Um, I just believe they're going to be without jobs, right? So the people that are sitting here fighting, that are literally fighting artificial intelligence, I think they will be some of the first people out of jobs. So my statement to everybody around here, everybody that's within the space, skill up, skill up. I say skill up because if you don't skill up, it's going to be a huge problem. It's going to be a huge problem for folks. So just make sure you skill up is what I'm going to say, right? I think there is an impact. I think it is coming. And I think if you are a Scrum Master or PM, You need to start skilling yourself up and learning how to utilize these tools to make it so you have more time to be more effective. Okay, so I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from, Patrick. But I'm gonna say skill up. I've been looking at these tools. I'm skilling myself on these tools. Make sure you do that. Period. Okay. All right. So one of the things as before I go to Petra's question, one of the things that Rajesh said over here uh, that is important, AI ops, right? And I'm putting this over here because I can't display his per se because LinkedIn is not connected for some strange reason. But here's the deal: AI ops, artificial intelligence and operations, right? Um, something to think about, people. Something to think about. Okay. All right. So, Petra, your question was with user stories, several teams have tasks. Whoa. How do you determine who owns the story? Here's my question. So, Petra, yeah, you should have came on the show for this one. Let me ask a couple questions, and you all tell me if I'm thinking wrong. And Petra, you're welcome to answer them as you see fit. But first statement: a user story should meet the invest criteria, right? Yeah. One of the pieces of the invest criteria is that a user story is only a user story if it's small enough to be completed in a single sprint. Okay. All right. Great. Now, the next question that I have is how many teams are within one sprint? One. So you have a user story, one that's small enough to be completed by a single team, and teams are associated to their own sprints. So why would a user story have tasks that go across several team sprints? I would initially say that's an epic. And I would say what you've done is you've broken your epic down into tasks that you spread across teams because likely you have silos that are happening. So really, your user stories are more technical in nature, it sounds like to me, and your user stories are really just tasks that go across a bigger epic that you're calling a user story. That is what I'm imagining that you're telling me. And so the question is, who owns the story? Well, who owns the pieces of that story would be the bigger question. Everybody has a piece that they own. But who owns the story? I don't know. I would say the product owner for sure, but beyond that, you got to assign somebody. Now, Petra says one sprint, one scrum team. No problem. Um, the story should be owned still by the product owner. Now, unless it's super technical, then they got to be owned by somebody that's more technical. The story should be owned by the product owner, and the task should be owned by the individuals. Because with a story, you can have an owner. With tasks, you can have owners. Okay, so you can separate ownership out between them. Does that make sense? Okay, and so it would be the product owner that owns the story still, and it would be members of the devs that likely own the actual task. Okay, that makes sense, Petra? Right? So it shouldn't be that there's an ownership problem, right? Um, when you have a user story, you have multiple team members that are doing various things to get that user story done. But I wouldn't say that those multiple team members own it. I would say that the product owner still owns it. But everybody has some responsibility in stuff that they do in order to get that story done. So can you have multiple team members working on it? Certainly, especially if you have a major division of skill set that is happening across team members. And so literally you can have one user story with multiple team members, or you can have a requirement that has multiple tasks. Each one of those tasks can have a different skill that's needed to complete it, which means it could be, different people doing each one of the skill sets to complete it. But you still can have a separate owner at the requirement level, at the user story level. So realistically, the responsibility for the team member is for the task that they signed up for. It is all of our responsibility to get the story itself done. We are collectively responsible for that. So that's another instance of where there's a shared responsibility for us getting the story done itself. But who owns that story still should be the product owner because it came out of their product backlog. Now they may have stakeholders and things like that that have incorporated in that or really, really owns it to some degree. But once is the Scrum team, the owner of that is truly the actual product owner. Now, I've seen organizations where you got lots of stakeholders and you might distinguish what stakeholder owns what, right? But, the idea is that multiple teams can work, well, not multiple teams, multiple team members can work on. I had to make sure I stopped saying resource. Multiple team members can work on a particular story, okay? Um, and then it still can be owned by the product owner. And in the vast majority of tools, Petra says she got it. So in the vast majority of tools, you should be able to separate those things out. In the vast majority of tools that exist, I don't know a tool. I don't know a tool that doesn't allow you to put an owner at the story level and owners at the task level, right? Most tools that I know of actually do that to some degree. Okay. So you want to make sure that that's being taken care of and that you account for that appropriately. But just remember, in the essence of it, right, a user story is small enough to be completed in one sprint, right? Can it have multiple tasks to get done? It likely will have multiple activities that need to get done. Can it have different owners? If you have different specific skill sets on that team, yes, you'll have different owners for each task. Sometimes you have a couple people working on one particular task. So it really depends on how you want to divide that up. And matter of fact, I wouldn't even try to divide it up. If I'm you, Petra, I would go ahead and let the team divide it up, right? Let a team decide on how they want to, work on that story, right? And how they're going to divvy it up or who's going to work on what. Let them figure out how they're going to do that. You let them figure out how they're going to do that, it's golden at that point. They'll feel more responsible for getting it done, and that's what you want them to feel. You want them to feel some kind of responsibility and ownership toward getting that done. And one of the biggest ways that you do that is by allowing them to make the commitment to the items. So really, 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 really important. And there's lots and lots of tools that exist. Petra, you guys are working in a tool, so I wouldn't worry about that as much. Um, Whatever tool it is, you likely have a way to do it, right? I don't know too many tools that don't have a way to segment out, you know, um, the user story from the task and have owners on them. You might get some simple tools, yeah, but most of them that are in large enough organizations likely have a way to do that. Okay. Other questions that you all have. What other questions do you all have? So just really important. Yeah, that was a good question, but separation of those things is not a complicated thing. You just got to make sure that you do the separation of them. Okay, got to make sure that you do that, right? And you all are familiar with all many, 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 many tools, right? But I don't know too many that don't allow you to do a separation of those things unless they're really simple tools, unless they're free. If the tool is free, you might run into that situation. If the tool is free, you might run into that situation. I don't remember off the top of my head if Trello allows you to separate out the little tasks and the little people. I don't remember if that's true or not. But the idea is that usually there's a way to do it. And even if there's not a way to do it, team members will just kind of write it as a part of the description. If they're really trying to say who owns what, they'll write it in the actual subject line of the task, or they'll write it out as part of the description. Is what they'll do. I've seen teams do it. It's what we used to do before these tools got really, really good at doing that kind of stuff. We just separate and put it in a text box if we needed to record it. Otherwise, we ain't trying to record that stuff. It's too much extra work. We got that just adds extra overhead when you gotta record all those things, man. Ain't nobody trying to do more administrative work. Like literally, who wants to do more administration? Don't nobody want nobody wants to do more administration. That's not the name of the game. The more administration you do, the further you're moving away from leaning toward um the left hand side of the Agile Manifesto. We value the items on the left, but the value the items on the right, but the left items more, right? And the more you move away from leaning toward those items toward the left, you want to be really careful about that. You want to be really, 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 really careful about that. Okay, that's just really, really true. There's no better way I can put that. Okay. Other questions that you all have, drop it in the chat, or come on, join me on the show. Okay, or come on, join me on the show. I had some expectations. People told me they was going to show up. They had big things to talk about. I'm like, okay, this is going to be crazy, but we're good. I don't mind not answering no questions. No, I'm just overall good. I just got nothing but happiness, right? Um, yeah, this is very true. The tools keep getting better, and usually there are plugins to help as well, right? The tools just keep getting better, man. I mean, you know, I, I mean, I keep these things around, man, but they serve no, I mean, they don't serve any purpose in today's professional environment. Like, literally, just, I just love these things, man. Post-its, man. I remember doing this in Post-its before you really had tools, right? Because you couldn't really do it in Excel well enough because Excel had share problems. And so using Post-its on the wall was just the magic, right? And I always loved using Post-its on the wall, but, you know, like if I'm using posters on the wall, it's because there's a need to. Like I'm in an environment where we can't really write things in a tool for whatever reason, or we're really truly there collaborating, or another instance would be it's something that is top secret and things can't go outside of the room or be put on an electronic tool. I've had those kind of situations happen. And these are valuable, but in all our rest of us, the regular people, this right here this is a dinosaur. It's literally dead. There's no need of using something like this. Absolutely no reason, right? And I mean, I love them, and I used to have ones as small as this, like not this size, but this size, right? And it just today's world, man. These tools every year they get better, and so every year they have something different. They have something that they add, and it's just, and that's a good thing. That's a really amazing thing. So yeah, I just kind of, make sure that I stay up on these tools a little bit. I mean, I don't, yeah, it's just amazing, right? So I think Petra has a response here. Makes sense. Remember, I am taking the team through a shift. Yeah, yeah. They are used to assigning stories to team members. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The team will figure out who is working on the task, and the tool can assign an owner. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you could help them make that change. Shouldn't be too tough of a change. And it can be, I find when I go inside, and I have that problem, Petra, I find that many of my team members, or the people that I'm working with, they are cool with the change. It actually makes more sense to them. It makes more sense to them that a task is actually an activity. A task is an activity of work, and we can estimate the activity work with an hourly estimate, right? They're normally happier to move toward that instead of it being something at a higher level that makes no sense to be at that higher level. So I always find that my teams, when they start making the adjustment, they enjoy the adjustment. It just feels truer to them. And it's just the way the setup should be, right? It's exactly the way the setup should be. Is the way that I would just press it in front of people. It's kind of the way it should be. So just be careful about that. But like I said, I know you're taking a team shift, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Hopefully, the things that we talk about here, Petra, are helpful for you, and they've been good experiments that you've been able to run. And I would say to anybody, right, the advice that I give on the show, it's not always perfect, right? Every environment is different, and what you want to do is you want to experiment, right? You don't want to take things that I say or anyone else say as gospel, right? Um, because everything doesn't work the same in every environment, man. It's just the truth, right? Yeah, they are agreeing to the adjustment. Yeah, yes, I'm telling you, it's going to be easier for them. It's just going to be easier for them overall. And Petra, you are definitely welcome. Just keep coming, keep asking your questions. Again, this is a learning ground. Just please understand, everybody that's here, this is a learning ground. This is an opportunity for us to learn and exchange. And trust me, some of the questions that you ask, I pull on things, right? I learn things here, right? Very much so. I always do. And so you come here, get your feel for the week, right? You can be here on the show and multitask a little bit on something else, right? Um, but the idea remains the same. Just we're gonna keep making it happen is what we're gonna do, right? So yeah, that's a good thing. My kid right there. Hey, Azrael, Alex, learning much. This is a good thing. Make sure you keep coming back. Nice that you got the CSPO, CSL, CSL. Look at you with the stuff in your picture. That's pretty cool. You look fancy, man. You look fancy. I don't look that fancy on my stuff. You see, I need a haircut. See this? It's craziness, right? My hair doesn't grow. Let me tell you something. My hair doesn't grow much past this. Like it just doesn't. It just gets to a place and it stops growing. It doesn't grow any further than that. And so I cannot walk around here with long dreads. It ain't happening. Um, you know. And I feel different if I was one of those guys like that was losing his hair because I put chemicals in my hair many years ago. But I ain't put no chemicals in my hair, nothing like that, man. So I've never done that, right? And my hair just never has grown. It just stays a certain. It just stays, get to a certain height, and it just curls up. That's what it does, which is cool. And I can't grow a beard much either, right? Just be all straggly and raggedy, But that's okay. People can talk bad about me. I'm alright with that. So yeah, 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 yeah. Man looks good, so that's a plus. So yeah, yeah. No, looking at a picture from my daughter just from years ago, right? So I have to show this to you. It's fun, right? She's about to graduate from her master's program, getting it done early. It's a good thing. It's cute when you got your kids from when they was little, right? Um, yeah, that's a good thing, right? Hey, Lizzie, how you doing? Did you just see the thing that I just showed? I'm gonna show it again, Lizzie, just for you. Don't be jealous of that, okay? Anyway, yeah, much branding left to do. You supposed to been done with that branding stuff? You supposed to been done with that branding stuff, Alex? So get it done. I will say this to you all, like I said to many people before. My guy John Signo, the brand and land class, is amazing. I've been having conversations. John is actually going to come out with a ebook, and I wrote a forward in it. I actually wrote a forward in the ebook, right? And so he's going to come out with that ebook, and I think that you know that brand and land information is really, really helpful, right? Everybody who I know, I think Alex just went through it. So, get your stuff ready. We're about to go through, at least from what I can tell, we're about to go through some tough times based on all the layoffs that are happening. There's a lot of organizations that are having layoffs. I mean, McDonald's is now opening their corporate offices, so then they can lay people off. They're supposed to do that last week, and it sounds like it's led into this week too. So yeah, people about to have a few tough times. So whatever you can do to help people out is going to be amazing. I've kind of moved away from the thought in terms of bearded eagle of actually, yeah, I kind of moved away from the thought of having a hardship class and moving toward a hardship discount, on almost any one of our classes. So a hardship discount can be up to 40% off. If people have a provable hardship, right, of whatever the class is, right? So if it is ACSM, a CSP, right? Whatever the price is, if somebody's is hardship and they have a provable hardship, right? Something that can be validated and verified, um, then they can take one of our classes for 40% off. So I'm just throwing it out there because it's a thought process that I have. Because I'm tired of having the onesie twosie classes. I know that people are interested in coming all the time. And I've moved my classes down to, 2 or 3 times a month, instead of, all the time like we would normally do. So just know that that is part of what's happening. But yeah, that hardship discount, is just something that people got to reach out to us for. And again, if it's provable, we'll make sure that we send you a code so you can join the class that you choose with a 40% discount, with a up to 40% discount is what I should say. So yeah, just something that we've been thinking about and doing within Bearded Eagle, because within any one of these classes, we can actually have people show up. I don't know how that would be for a public class, but once we get to a certain number in the public class, then we can open it up that way, because we got to make sure we pay the bills, right? In a public class, but for a virtual class, off the rip, hardship people can get 40% off. Is that crazy, y'all? You know, I just can't help but to think about how we can help people. But when we did the classes for free, a lot of people really took advantage of that. They took bad advantage of that. So, and it's never really for free because we have expenses that we have to pay, in terms of that. So, but that 40% off, I think, is going to help people. And so I'm looking forward to being able to provide that for people in need. It kind of warms my heart. It just makes me feel some kind of way, right? I don't want people to struggle. I just don't, I really don't. And if I can help out a little bit, it's always a good thing. Okay. So that being said, other questions? Any other questions anybody has? It looks like it is time for us to get started with shutting it down. This was, y'all. I'm gonna tell you right now, this was an amazing show for me. Um, this is the first time I really talked about DevOps on this show, and I just don't think about it. I just always think about these things as being like the topics that go into my mind are very normal for me, and so because they're so normal for me, I don't think about them as something to talk about. I just don't. I just really, really don't. Right? So until somebody says something, then it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. So here's the deal, right? The Slap Your Mama series. What other things should we go deeper on in the Slap Your Mama series? Talk to me, y'all. What other topics should we go deeper on for the Slap Your Mama series? Tell me, talk to me. Drop it in the chat for me. What other topics should we go deeper on in the Slap Your Mama series? Wow, the Scrum Master. I got timeout. I got the Scrum Master and the Scrum Master Pro. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, cool. The Scrum Master Pro, too. Yeah. There we go. So, yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with interviewing and getting yourself together. But what what other topics do we need to cover more in depth, y'all? You all tell me. So I see interviewing, right? Interviewing. What else should we cover more in depth? You all tell me. For the Slap Your Mama series, because this is a special series. We're not gonna do it every single week, but we're gonna do it once a month. What other things should we talk about? What other things should we talk about? Maybe you all think we shouldn't talk about anything, but just again, Slap Your Mama series is about going a little bit deeper, right? Coaching skills development. Also, agile coaching skills development. I like that one. I like that one, right? Yeah, I can just pull some things out of. Yeah, I can. Super easy, right? So yeah, coaching skills development sounds like a good one. What else can we talk about, y'all? What else can we talk about for the Slap Your Mama series and go deeper? Go deeper. What is it that y'all want to go deeper on in this show? Hopefully, I don't think this was too deep. It shouldn't have been too deep for anybody here. It should have been high enough level where you still can get an understanding, because the words that I tried to use should be all self-explanatory, right? You know, so yeah, so it just one of those things. And anything that we talked about is easy to look up, super easy to look up, like super easy to look up, right? So yeah, so on that note, all I see is agile coaching skills. So on that note, y'all, this has been a pleasure. I always have a good time here. I've had an amazing time in terms of this particular topic. it feels very at home to me. It feels very at home to me, right? And so next week we're gonna get back at this. I don't know what the topic's gonna be next week, but we're gonna hit something real good. And I'm looking forward to doing whatever we're gonna do next week. But I'm gonna figure that out this week, what we're gonna talk about next week. Other than that, y'all, this has been more than a pleasure. Y'all make sure you have the most amazing week, right? Stay out of trouble out there, and do great things with the integrity that you have. Other than that, I'm going to say, peace, y'all. This has been great. I will see you next time. And I just want to remind everybody, for people that are newer to this whole Scrum thing, Agile Alliance next week is actually having a half day conference. So that might be a good thing for you all to jump in and go to, right? Just go to Agile Alliance, look for the mini con, right, on the 14th. So Lizzie's going to be she's going to be the actual speaker, keynote speaker. So, on that note, you all, peace. Y'all have a good one. I'll catch you on a rebound. Okay. See you next week. Bye bye, everybody.